Hold the Line with Mike Solon is brought to you by the Seattle Police Officers Guild, Seattle's public safety voice.
And I will do everything in my power, I want to be clear, to protect anyone in Seattle from anyone who comes to this city with the intention to hurt them or inhibit their First Amendment rights. And what that means is, at some point, I will probably go to jail and be in prison.
Hey, welcome back to Hold the Line with Mike Solon. We got an emergency podcast because I think we need to address what's going on just now locally, but what's been happening in LA that seems to be sweeping across the nation in cities, most of them that supported defunding roughly 5 years ago, and now we're seeing the calamity of that unfold in front of us. And I think it's put public safety at the forefront, not just locally in Seattle, but across the nation. It's put cops, again, in a real bind. And more importantly, the communities across the nation in an extreme bind because people's public safety is at risk, all because of politics. We're going to specifically break down those politics, how it impacts Seattle, briefly touch on the national component of that, and try to find some type of common ground as we deal with the issues of the day. Stick around.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
This is where we hold them. This is where we fight.
We will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish. Not a fight. Hold the line!
Hey, so what am I talking about? So, my job as the union head here in the Seattle Police Officers Guild, elected by officers and sergeants, is to defend the contract. That contract has been the focus of activists for decades to try to improve the language to benefit them. Therefore, try to remove some of the rights against cops. My job is to defend that and push back on the activists, try to find common ground where we can with the politicians that approve contracts based upon money and what have you. I'm supposed to have good relations with City Hall, good relations internally with command, such as the chiefs, and obviously fundamentally be sound with the membership because they pay dues into the union and I advocate for them. They elect me to speak on their behalf and do all those things to solve all the problems. And I love doing it. I really do. I'm humbled by it. But it's been a sacrifice. It's hard on my family sometimes. I had these lunatics, Antifa and the mob, march in my private home. Bring it. But I digress from that because I don't want to come across as if I'm complaining or whining, because I'm not. I love this job. I like the action. See, for me, the action is the juice. Using a term from my favorite movie of all time, Heat. What the hell am I talking about? Well, the new police chief, Shon Barnes, just confirmed yesterday, spoke at the Public Safety Committee meeting at the City Council. He made some comments regarding federal law enforcement, particularly surrounding the Trump administration and all this dust up about ICE and illegal immigration, which has been the focal point of what appears to be political conversations that we haven't seen in a very, very long time. Not just locally, but nationally. But with the local piece, my concern is twofold. First being, I've got to maintain good relations with the chiefs to get business done. I understand that. And we do. I do. We do get business done to keep the ball moving forward. The ball meaning the job, making sure the contract's enforced. If command does something that violates the contract, then I try to at least solve it informally before we have to go administratively, meaning file a grievance or an unfair labor practice, making a big labor argument. And I've got a good working relationship with Chief Barnes. I do. I think he's a decent man. But where I disagree, and this is the second point of his comments yesterday, it's the first time I disagreed with him in terms of a public setting. He can virtue signal about being arrested by the Trump administration. That's just high-level politics. That's being a chief in a blue city, Democrat city, appointed by a mayor. You expect those kind of comments. But my main concern is that, and I've said this time and time again, check us out on X at SPOG 1952, where we consistently say, remove politics out of public safety. And I think the chief has participated in inserting politics into public safety based upon the comments he mentioned yesterday that I have a significant problem with. And it's put cops who put the uniform on in this city, the city of Seattle, the Seattle Police Department, in a real bad predicament. Much like to our press release that we had 2 weeks ago that got real good national traction, where we lamented about being put in untenable situations, political quagmire at Cal Anderson Park, when the mayor's press release basically blamed a church group for being right-wing people that caused the problem, the dust-up at Cal Anderson Park, when indeed it was Antifa that started the actions and the police had to intervene. Right? So, of course, we predicted that we'd be blamed for those actions because we had to use force. And sure enough, get in line. There's OPA complaints, which is the internal investigations part of the accountability structure in the city of Seattle. And so on cue, that happened. So it happens in a progressive city like Seattle, which, I love being here. It's a great place to live, raise a family. It's an excellent police department. But I'm witnessing firsthand, 26 years on now, this agency being torn apart by politics. And that was on display yesterday. And I got a significant problem with it because those comments by the chief, I believe, puts cops in an unsafe predicament. Not just us in the Seattle Police Department, cops that put this uniform on and protect this community, but it's not just protecting the civilians. You put other people that are employed in the call of service of the law enforcement profession at significant risk when you say that we're not going to assist ICE officials, officers who are enforcing the law. And here's why I say this. Cops are there to enforce the law and back each other up. It's the badge we wear. Devoid of politics. Even people that hate us, we're supposed to lay our lives down to protect them. That's the oath of service. That's why we do this job. But I'm watching that oath being targeted by activists and feckless leaders that kowtow to the activist class that are the loudest, in fear of losing their jobs, their status. So what are we to do if a federal law enforcement officer, such as an ICE agent, U.S. Border Patrol agent, Customs agent, FBI, ATF, DEA, whomever that has a badge, who've also sworn oath of service to uphold the Constitution to protect people. What are we to do if those federal law enforcement officers get into trouble, meaning their safety's at risk when they're trying to enforce federal law, such as, let's use for example, much like what the chief was saying, trying to arrest an illegal immigrant? What do we do if ICE officers call for help? Well, I can tell you at the local level, when police officers call for help, everybody that's on duty working that day and hears a call from another police officer for help, drops whatever the hell they're doing within reason, and responds to that officer's call for help. It's what we do. That's the brotherhood. That's the sisterhood. That's the oath of service. What are we to do now if a fellow brother and sister in the profession of law enforcement, regardless if it's local, state, or federal, call for help? We're supposed to go. So I'm asking, now that it's been addressed by the chief that we're not going to get involved, who's going to help the ICE agents, officers, those sworn law enforcement professionals? Who's going to help them when they call for help if they get into over their heads, such as they're trying to arrest somebody, illegal immigrant? What if they get surrounded? What if they start taking rocks and bottles? What if their lives are in danger just for doing their jobs? What are we supposed to do as local law enforcement officers now? What's the direction? What's the order? Well, I think it was quite clear yesterday, based upon the chief's comments, that we're to stand down. Well, I don't think that that's accurate, and I will disagree with that 100%. You know, we're a sanctuary city, okay. We're a sanctuary state. I get it. Keep Washington Working Act. It's a law that prohibits assisting federal immigration authorities. What happens if they get in over their heads for an officer safety issue? Are we not supposed to assist them because of the politics being intentionally inserted into public safety? What happens if a local law enforcement from the city of Seattle hears the radio call for help from that federal agent? Are they now no longer supposed to go? Are we just going to let that officer get hurt, maimed, killed for doing their job? Regardless of the politics, I ask you. I ask you, Chief. I ask the mayor. I'll ask the city council. I'll ask our community. I'll ask people in this podcast. What would you do? You know, I mean, I'm going to help that fellow cop in law enforcement out. I mean, look what happened in Rochester, New York. This is over a month ago. The mayor of that city, the police chief, scolded the on-duty officers who assisted ICE agents who asked for help because they were getting overwhelmed during an arrest. Became a big political hot potato. And those officers from that community were thrown into the bus. So nationally, our group UCops, you can find us on X at United Cops, links in the description. We showed up to Rochester, New York in support of the Locust Club, their police union, in support of those local cops, because they did the right thing, backing up other law enforcement professionals who are asking for help. And so that's going to happen here in the city of Seattle, which we predicted would happen across the nation. What are we to do as cops who took an oath of service? Are we now being told to break our oath for safety reasons? Or not show for safety reasons? What's the orders? Well, I think it's quite clear what's being told and put out there publicly by our leaders. This is one of the worst things I've seen. I can tell you, I didn't take this job to not adhere to the oath of service. But what's happened now in the city of Seattle is that for a very long time, the activist class have slowly grinded away to try to remove the calling of the job. and they've been successful. 700 cops gone in 10 years. Majority of that gone in the past 5 years post-2020 George Floyd riots. Gone. We got a problem on our hands. There's so much politics now inserted in this profession that it's almost becoming untenable if you're trying to scratch that itch, that call, that oath of service. Especially in hyper-politicized cities that target cops just for being cops. And that's essentially what's happened here. That's the explanation as to why so many cops have left this city. But yet, I'm still here fighting to save this department, despite of all these optics, despite all the attacks against this union, me, all the other cops that wear the uniform. We're still grinding away, and that's our job to do. That's my job. I'm humbled to be elected in this position to keep fighting. Protect the contract, get our cops paid, because at the end of the day, all that really matters now is because the oath, the calling has been so eroded by the hyper-focused, politicized attacks against this profession and the cops that put the badge on. The only thing left is better benefits and pay. Yes, we are the highest paid in the state because we have to be. But here we are. We're a year and a half out of contract again. We're still facing this daunting accountability ordinance passed by that then city council in 2017 against collective bargaining. That if you were to unpack what they really want with that accountability ordinance, there's no way in your right mind if you knew the nuances of it, which I don't want to get into specifically here. I don't want to get too much in the weeds, and I don't want to violate good faith bargaining and be accused of bad faith bargaining. But I can tell you the nuances of that ordinance are so detrimental to just fundamentally just being a cop here in the city that you wouldn't want to be here. But yet we're bargaining what that means at the table right now. So I'm still motivated. I'm a little bit perplexed about the chief's comments yesterday. And not perplexed, I'm just frustrated. And I get some of the politics behind it. You know, in order to keep your job as a chief, you're going to have to do the bidding of the person that appointed you in that position, which is the mayor, the executive. At that level, it's all political. Especially when there's such extreme politics between who's in the White House right now and what your political allegiances are to that White House. It's pretty clear that they're against the Trump administration. So as a police officer, you're put in a bad position, particularly if you're supposed to go to the federal building, which happened yesterday, and I just drove by the federal building tonight. As I'm recording this podcast, there's a big fire in the street at 2 and Marion. Bunch of people, activists, Antifa, hanging out, doing property destruction, and cops are on the sidelines waiting to get the order to move in if lives are at risk. But here's the deal. We're just sitting there, which is fine. Let people have a fire, protest all you want, as long as it's safe and peaceful. But when the order goes in to save people and use force, it's all going to come back down to the cop who has to make the choice to use that force to create a safer situation. And the activists, again, like we predicted in our press release, are going to target cops, target SPOG, and of course they've already done that. There's other Office of Police Accountability allegations of policy violations that we're dealing with. So, you've made it very difficult to use the less lethal tools we have, all the policy changes post-2020. You've put this city at greater risk for public safety. You've inserted more politics of public safety. And here we go on and on and on. And you're going to really make it difficult to recruit to get people here. Particularly if you still, meaning who's they? I mean, the politicians. They continue to try to erode our union rights, advocating in Olympia to remove our arbitration rights, subverting collective bargaining, making moves internally that I'm not going to get into the weeds on, but I can assure you that they're negatively impacting what we're trying to get to make our benefits to the officers that just put the job on, using their own money, making it very difficult for us to do that. Every day is a battle. Every single day. But yet you'll hear from the city and a dog corporate media, legacy media just say, hey, the applications are up. Things are great. Let's go. Move on. No, I'm sorry. You got applications that are up because you're making a real good wage here, but it's not just specifically focused on Seattle. Those applicants shotgun approach to all these surrounding agencies via using an app, a company where they show interest in a certain agency or like say 5 agencies, and then the statistics show that, hey, all these people are focused, and then every city will basically say, hey, it's everybody that's interested in us. No, it's not specific to you. It's just a shotgun approach. That's how the data is collected. So just don't pump the tires to the numbers because they're not accurate. We're in a real bad staffing problem. Crisis. It's going to take decades to get out of. So what do you do if you're a union head here and you're trying to get a better contract? You can't really go hard in the paint against the elected officials. You got to keep good relations with command staff. But it makes it very difficult when they continue to intentionally insert politics on the national conversation. I mean, look what's happening in LA. You got the governor Newsom basically saying that those protests are going to go across the nation. And we're going to see it unfold here with the No Kings demonstrations this coming Saturday. And I think it's going to be an absolute gong show, putting cops in real bad, untenable, unsafe situations. Do we have the command courage to make the call to protect life and property, giving authority by the executive to use the less lethal tools, the manner and in the way that they're supposed to be used? Policy certainly restricts that now. You're putting cops in a real bad spot, all because of politics being inserted. So with all this I'm saying to you, is this a real effective recruiting tool? The welcoming mat for a quality human being to want to put this uniform on in this hyper-charged political environment? Doesn't appear so. But I can tell you, we're going to keep grinding here from Spog. I'm so proud. I drove by the cops that were staged along 3rd Avenue and about the 800 block tonight, about 3rd and Marion, just about a block up the street from the big bomb fire. They're there putting the uniform on, trying to protect and do their jobs, but it gets more difficult every day when Antifa keeps dictating public safety terms and our elected leaders don't call Antifa out, appear to be intimidated by their domestic terrorist actions, Antifa that is, and allow them to assault community members. Here's a video in particular, what happened yesterday, and this is Andrea Suarez from We Heart Seattle. Check this out. This is the Antifa mob. Assaulting her, harassing her, trying to take her phone. Well, she's just documenting it. Watch them assault her here. There it is. There's the push. Try to grab her phone. This isn't normal. Why do we have politicians that don't call this behavior out? It's bizarre. And it puts cops in a real bad spot. I'm so tired of this nonsense. And the cops on the street are tired of this nonsense. 28% of our current staffing numbers, about 857 of us, are eligible to retire. Think about that. We should be around 1,500 cops. We got about 857 deployable people. 28% of that current 857 are eligible to retire. That's 280. I can tell you right now, if we lose 100, shut the lights off. There's no way we can continue to operate. And if you use us as pawns in this political game of intentionally injecting politics into public safety due to your problems with the Trump administration, virtue signaling, we have a major problem on our hands. What do we do if an ICE officer calls for help? Could we possibly lose our jobs now for going to assist that ICE agent to save their lives? I think it's on the table. All because of politics being intentionally inserted into public safety. Well, I can tell you, if I'm working, I'm going. better believe I'm going. Tired of this crap. All because of politics. I'll close with this from the chief. This is his official statement from the Seattle Police Department. This is outside of his council comments. But digest some of this.
As I watch the actions taken by federal law enforcement in California and along the West Coast, I am reminded of why I became a police officer. It is my job to support the rights of our community. Let me be clear. The Seattle Police Department does not engage in immigration enforcement activities. We do not inquire into or collect information about an individual's immigration or citizenship status unless it is directly connected to a state or local criminal investigation. This is, of course, the sole responsibility of the federal government. My responsibility is the safety and security of the people of Seattle. We adhere to Washington state law, which limits our involvement with federal immigration authorities for enforcement purposes. Here in Seattle, no one should be afraid of contacting local law enforcement to report a crime, ask for help, or cooperate with an investigation.
So I commend him for that statement because I think that's reasonable. He comes across as, hey, laying the ground rules, the mission. I get it. That's a reasonable approach, and I commend him for that. The problem I have is inserting politics about how he's going to get arrested by the Trump administration. I don't understand that. It's unnecessary. It's virtue signaling for sure. But again, my problem with this is what are we to do as a police force then if an ICE agent calls for help because their lives are at risk, because the mob is at their arrest site? It's essentially what happened in LA. ICE agents making arrests, and it became a big thing. Now we got riots. You got a legacy media saying nothing to see here. You got politicians saying it's peaceful. Meanwhile, you've got looting, X's blowing up with all these acts of violence. You got cops being hit with boulders, rocks, frozen water bottles, anything you can get your hands on, mortars, just like what we saw in 2020. So here we are again. Cops are put in an untenable position. We don't have the staffing, as we laid out in our press release, to handle these mass arrests anymore in the city of Seattle. There's no way. None. All because of politics being intentionally inserted into public safety. Enough. So here's what I need from you, the call to action. I need you to connect with the city council, go to public meetings, wage your support of law enforcement, insist that they remove politics out of public safety. If we all do that basic mission, we can all continue to hold the line here. Try to have some positivity here and move the ball forward. Get back to reason and common sense when it comes to public safety. Like and subscribe, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we will continue. The rest of us that are here to hold the line and back other cops up who call for help.